Moving forward, the next technical session is on Roadmap for Scaling India's Tooling Capabilities. Please put your hands together as I request Mr. Ashutosh Sinha, Principal, Nomura Research Institute, NRI, to please join us on stage. Huge round of applause.
Very good afternoon to everyone. I think I once again, like every ITS session, stand between you and lunch. So I'll try and keep it short and simple. But what I would try and do today is to summarize. A lot of solutions were discussed in the morning sessions. I'll try and summarize and add a little bit of perspective to that by virtue of working with TAGMA and the tooling industry for last 6 years. We've tried to understand the challenges in a little bit more detail and what could be the potential solutions around it. So, yeah, I think Ashim left his presentation at this point where we say that how the tool rooms are stuck in a vicious cycle of dependencies. I'll try and elaborate on that, and then of course what could be the way forward to changing this vicious cycle into a virtuous one. Very difficult task, but definitely there could be some small steps which could be taken, which could start to yield some good results, and then of course turn this vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle. And finally, conclusions and concluding remarks from my side. So I think this is a slide that was flashed earlier. What we wanted to showcase here is that I think the first and the foremost challenge starts with low capabilities that are currently that because of the fact that most of the tool rooms are MSMEs, and there's a low confidence that the customers, that the tier ones and the OEMs typically, I mean again not talking for a particular tool room, but that typical customers have for the Indian tool rooms because of multiple challenges. Challenges around lack of manufacturing excellence, which is with regards to people, with regards to with regards to people. Of course, there are challenges with regards to lack of upskilling programs. The people are not there. There's a lot of attrition which is happening, and which is leading to a lot of human resource issues. And of course, with regards to product, where there are equipment constraints, where there are higher lead times and reworks. We've heard a lot of speakers speak about that in the earlier sessions as well. And of course, what this leads to is the lower confidence of the customers, which is the OEMs and the tier ones, and hence their confidence or the reluctance to give them high quality, high value products. For instance, the A and B category products, that's something that the OEMs would definitely want to localize, but most of these parts are currently being either catered through captive tool rooms or through imports. So that is essentially leading to a lack of high category projects, which is basically a high realization projects for the tool rooms, and thus the tool rooms are stuck in a low realization products, which leads to profitability getting impacted, which is the third element, which is high fixed cost also. Because you have engineers, because you have resources, because you have invested in your capital, you have the fixed cost, and as I think mentioned in the earlier sessions as well, you have to sweat your assets as much to get your profits, and that is where the profits start to go down. And then what does that lead to is basically a lower cash flow that you have, and on top of that you have the lower customer confidence, which impacts your unfavorable payment terms that you have with the customers. And also the working capital is blocked because of order delays and reworks, which leads to further lower capability development. So this is a vicious cycle. I think we all understand, we all know this. What could be the solution towards that? I mean, again, it's not a overnight solution or a panacea, but there could be some small steps which could be taken, which could improve the situation. So as Ashim had pointed out, there are 6 categories of challenges which the tool rooms are facing. I have particularly grayed that out the right side, on the challenges on the right side, because those are mostly the ecosystem driven, mostly beyond the control of the tool rooms. What I wanted to focus on today was the factors or the challenges which are within the control of the tool rooms, which are controllable. How do we address them? Operational, human resource, and finance related. Let's try and understand what could be the steps towards that. How could we address the operational challenges? And that's the first part where we look at cost optimization. So I think the most common thing that we heard about in the morning sessions was rework, the lack of quality. So the project execution is something that we heard that the current customers have a lot of problems with the Indian tool rooms at this point in time. The reason being, of course, because of the capacity not being able to plan, because you have invested in certain machines. Some machines are available, the machines have downtimes, the maintenance is not done for the machines, for the assets. Then of course when you want to outsource, then the outsourcing ecosystem is not there. So all this is currently, there's I mean, what it seems like, there's a lot of chaos happening in the tool rooms for one particular order that is being executed. That needs, what we are saying is that the passion that the tool rooms have, that needs to be mixed and topped up with some bit of professional project management. So what we say is that a project monitoring approach, so a resource estimation tool, when a project is awarded, when an order is awarded, how that order is going to be executed through the entire period from the order award till T1, and then of course going forward. How is that going to be executed? That is something which is a very low, I mean, it does not require very high. The tools could be based on MS Excel or something which is very straightforward and common, doesn't require very high investment. But what it brings to the table is that it brings the visibility of where could the constraints lie in the entire ecosystem, and then your resources, which is basically your machining centers or your heat treatment capabilities, will have to be aligned accordingly for that project execution. That's the basic step which needs to be done to set the house in order. I know a lot of companies would be doing that, but how do we do that professionally and for every order is something that what I'm trying to allude to. Then once that is done, the second element is something that most of the tool rooms are already pursuing and doing, which is the process improvement, but that needs to be done at a much more larger scale and with a lot of rigor, with a lot of endorsement from the tool room management, where we say that, okay, the process mapping and the bottleneck identification will have to be done on a regular basis. Operational excellence and quality culture will need to be built, and a culture of Kaizen or a continuous quality improvement needs to be built in, which of course I don't think I need to speak to this audience. This audience is quite any which way much more educated than probably I am on this topic. The second element is then once we've fixed out a little bit on the cost element, then we start to look at on the revenue side, on the top line side. How do we start to gain more additional revenue? There could be 2-3 avenues. So first is, how do we make the shift towards high value projects, high value orders, high realization projects, and that is something that basically, I mean, this is the gap. The graph here shows that how part A and part B in terms of the order size, typical order size, how they are high value projects, and they would of course lead to much better margins for the tool rooms. But unfortunately the Indian tool rooms do not have the capabilities, or the customers do not have the confidence to give those projects to them. Of course, then there are a lot of tool rooms where we have resources or engineers who are currently being not utilized, probably, and are, I mean, they are high cost. There could be an aspect which could be looked at, that going the trend for engineering services outsourcing. Can you? I think we were talking about shared resources from a shared assets from a machining point of view, but there could be also shared assets for of course the IPR, within the IPR rules and non-competing activities. Can there be shared assets with non-competing industries where these engineering skills could be leveraged, and there could be ESO model which could be thought of? That could be an additional source of revenue. And then of course identification of new and upcoming sectors apart from automotive, which forms a major chunk. Continuing the focus on automotive, but also identifying. Now these are 3 key areas or themes which need to be looked at. But how do we do that? I mean, and for that, what I'm saying is that the current process of customer engagement needs to be looked at and needs to be revamped. Right now, what we are doing is a typical cycle of new orders, order execution, and repeat orders, and that is where I think we are failing probably a lot of tool rooms, is because the order execution is not that great, and hence the repeat orders is a big challenge. What we need to do here is the order execution, where we see, I think, the Koreans and the Chinese have a very strong after-sales support. That is something that needs to be done. The senior folks in the tool rooms need to speak to the customers, need to continuously speak to the customers. What are the challenges? Where are we failing? And those need to be recorded, and then of course those need to be incorporated into the innovation for the new product, for the new orders which needs to be there. So this mindset needs to be revamped, the processes need to be revamped within the tool rooms. And then what we are saying is that we need to come out from an order-based operating model to a customer-centric operating model. How do we form a customer-centric operating model? What I'm saying is that the entire sales process or the customer engagement process could be divided into three areas. The first and most important area is the sales strategy and planning, which has to be done by the BU leadership or the tool room leadership. That needs to take care of what are the challenges which the customers are facing, what were the issues which were recorded in the last few orders that we executed, and how do we ensure that those orders are not being repeated. So that is a continuous engagement that needs to be thought of. And then of course the sales management and sales process could be taken care by the next round of leadership of the tool rooms. Enabled by the people and skills and the technology and tools, as I talked about, the robust project management and the MIS will start to enable all of these. But I think the message that I'm trying to drive home is that we need to move from an order-based approach to a more customer-centric model where we try and understand what are the pain points, where are we getting stuck, so that we have a better negotiating leverage when we are talking to the customers in terms of the payment terms, in terms of the working capital issues that we have. It's a constant discussion that we keep having. And then the third element, I'll not spend too much time, is around capabilities development. We've talked a lot about technology innovations, we've talked a lot about skills also. Of course, the ongoing activities are there, but how do we retain talent and how do we upskill them is something that has been talked about in the earlier sessions, so I'm not going to delve deeper into it. Now what these some smaller activities will start to do is that they will start to get, the vicious cycle will start to turn into a virtuous cycle. Now what is, as I think was again being discussed at length in the earlier sessions, is that we need fresh capital to invest in new technologies, invest in capex, and the OEMs are constantly demanding the tool rooms to invest in new areas, new technologies. How do you secure capital for that when you are currently struggling with your working capital issues, when you're currently struggling with your payment terms? And that is where I think the capital, the private sector, and the next slide talks a little bit about that, but are the tool rooms open to secure capital from the private sector? When I say private sector, it could be strategic investments, it could be private equity, it could be even the public, going the public route, depending on what is the appetite of each of the tool rooms. But for that, to secure the interest of the investors, have we set the house in order, is something that I want to drive the point home. Because if we see the trend of some of the companies who've secured funding in the last 10 years, 8 years, and see the kind of growth that they have achieved in their revenues and sales. So definitely a capital infusion from a private player, or even from a venture capital, even from a private equity, or through IPO route, could help the tool rooms to start thinking about the new avenues of growth while helping setting the house in order. But to secure the investments, we need to do a few steps, because right now, if we look at the PE deals of the last six months or last 1 year, hardly manufacturing sectors, even in the manufacturing sectors, even in the capital goods, we see investments coming in the large to medium scale companies, but not in MSMEs. Why are the PEs not interested in the MSMEs? Because they see some inherent challenges which are not being addressed. So once we start, as tool rooms, start to showcase that we are ready to create the value creation plan for you, then there could be investment which could then further accelerate the virtuous cycle. So yeah, I think in conclusion, what I think the challenge part is pretty straightforward and well iterated, but there are two key takeaways that I would want this forum to take from my presentation. One is, of course, to develop a customer-centric approach. We need to understand what the customer wants. We need to understand why there is a low trust by the customers in the ITRs. And then a robust project execution methodology. I mean, we of course are doing the projects, we are executing the projects, but how do we bring a little bit more professionalism into that project execution is something that we all can think of and consider while going back from here. So with that I end my presentation. Of course, we can discuss any thoughts during our individual interaction. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
GPS-driven world, I think sharing the roadmap always helps rhetorically and really. Huge round of applause for Mr. Ashutosh Sinha once again. While we felicitate him, may I request Mr. Raj Singh to do the honors. He is the EC member, founder, director, Equip Group of Companies. Huge round of applause for both the gentlemen. Let's have you on center stage for a perfect photo. Let's have some cheering.